Welcome. Come in gently and make yourself comfortable. If you have a pillow close to you, pull it in just a little. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw loosen. There is nowhere you need to be right now. Nothing waiting for you. Just this voice, and a journey that is going to take you somewhere most human beings have never gone and never will. Somewhere so far from the noise and the light and the rush of the world above that even the concept of hurry seems to dissolve the moment you begin to drift downward. Tonight, we are going to the deep ocean, and I promise you, what waits down there is stranger, more beautiful, and more alive than almost anything your mind has ever been asked to hold. Take one slow breath in and let it go. You are lying still now, and somewhere beneath you, beneath the floor, beneath the earth, beneath the weight of continents, there is an ocean. There is always an ocean. The sea covers more than 70% of the surface of this planet, and yet we have explored less than 20% of it. We have better maps of Mars than we do of our own ocean floor. We have sent people to the surface of the moon, but the deepest parts of the sea remain more mysterious, more uncharted, more unknowable than almost anywhere else in the known universe. Think about that for a moment. The last great frontier on Earth is not a jungle. It is not a mountain range. It is not a polar ice sheet. It is right here on this planet, wrapped around us like a dark and living skin, and it is still almost entirely a secret. That is where we are going tonight. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a pier somewhere quiet. It is late. The air is cool and smells of salt and something older than salt, something mineral and vast. The water below you is dark, not the dark of a room at night, but a different kind of dark. A full dark, a living dark, a dark that goes on for miles. You step off the edge, slowly, without fear, and you begin to descend. The surface closes over you like a curtain being drawn, and the world above becomes a memory. There is no cold yet. Not quite. The water near the top is almost gentle, almost warm, lit from above by the last of the moonlight filtering through in soft blue ribbons. You are at the surface zone now. This is called the epipelagic layer, the sunlit zone, where the ocean still remembers the sky. It reaches down to about 200 meters, and here the water is alive in ways you can feel. If it were daytime, you would see shafts of light spearing down through turquoise water, spiraling with plankton, glittering with silver fish, turning in schools so vast, they move like one creature, one mind, one heartbeat. Dolphins would streak past you, leaving trails of bubbles that spiral like galaxies. Sea turtles would glide overhead, unhurried as thoughts, their flippers barely moving. Everything here is lit and warm and full of motion. But we are going deeper. As you descend, the light begins to change. The warm surface glow fades slowly, not all at once but in stages, the way a room feels after someone turns off a lamp in the corner. The blue deepens. The turquoise becomes something more serious, more considered. A blue that asks questions. The temperature drops by degrees you can feel along your skin, a cool pressure pressing in from all sides. You pass through what oceanographers call the thermocline, a boundary layer where warm water and cold water meet and do not mix, like two people in a room who are being polite to each other, but nothing more. It is abrupt. One moment you are in one world, and then, just like that, you are in another. You have reached 200 meters, and here the sunlight fails completely. This is where things begin to get interesting. Below 200 meters, you enter the mesopelagic zone, the twilight zone. And I want you to stay here a moment, because this place is so extraordinary and so little spoken about. It is a layer of ocean that stretches from 200 meters all the way down to 1,000 meters below the surface. That is almost 2/3 of a mile of water above you, pressing down gently, pressing you further in. The light here is not zero, not yet. It is something stranger than that. It is the ghost of light. A blue-violet dimness so faint you would question whether you were seeing it or imagining it. Bioluminescence begins here, and it is everywhere. Creatures you cannot quite make out pulse with their own cold light. Greens and blues and occasionally a deep red that seems almost impossible at this depth. The lanternfish live here. Small, unremarkable sounding name for one of the most abundant vertebrates on Earth. They number in the trillions. They make daily migrations, rising toward the surface at night to feed and sinking back into the darkness before dawn. A great living tide that moves through the ocean every single day, invisible to us, unnoticed by us, and yet so massive that their movement shows up on sonar equipment and was once mistaken by Navy operators for a false ocean floor. A phantom seafloor that rises and falls with the light. Imagine that. A living layer of creatures so dense it looks like solid ground. Alongside them drift the siphonophores, and these deserve a quiet moment of your full attention. A siphonophore looks at first like a single creature. It moves like one. It pulses and trails through the dark water with a kind of effortless elegance. But it is not one creature at all. It is a colony, sometimes hundreds, sometimes thousands of tiny individual organisms called zooids, each one specialized for a different task. Some are for swimming, some for feeding, some for reproduction. Some exist only to sting. They are connected to each other in a way that has no clean analog in the world above. They are neither one nor many. They blur the line between individual and colony so completely that biologists are still uncertain which word applies. One species, Praia dubia, can reach 45 meters in length. That makes it potentially the longest animal on Earth, longer than a blue whale. Drifting silently through the dark, glowing faintly. A river of life that is also somehow a single living thing. You drift past it. It does not notice you. You barely disturb the water. Let your breathing slow a little more. You are very still now. The water is very still around you, deeper. Let yourself sink deeper. At 1,000 meters, you leave the twilight behind entirely. You have reached the bathypelagic zone, the midnight zone. And here the dark becomes something you feel rather than simply see. It is complete. It is absolute. There is no light here that does not make its own. The pressure at this depth is roughly 100 times what you feel standing in the open air right now. 100 atmospheres. If you pressed your hands together and imagined the weight of the atmosphere above you multiplied 100-fold, you would begin to understand what this water is. And yet, life. Abundant, improbable, magnificent life. The anglerfish lives here, and you have probably seen pictures, but pictures never quite prepare you for the reality of the thing. The female anglerfish, The large one, the predator, carries a modified spine on her forehead that curves forward like a fishing rod over her face, and at its tip glows a small lantern of living light, produced by bioluminescent bacteria that live inside a bulb called the esca. She drifts through the dark, barely moving, and the light does the work, swaying gently, pulsing, drawing in curious creatures who approach it and find, too late, a mouth full of curved, translucent teeth. Her jaw can unhinge. Her stomach can expand. She can swallow prey larger than her own body. She is extraordinary. But the male anglerfish is something else entirely. Smaller, far smaller, sometimes 10 times smaller than the female. He spends the early part of his life searching in the dark for a female. He can barely feed. He exists almost only to find her. And when he does, guided by scent through millions of liters of black water, he bites into her side. And then something happens that has no real parallel in the animal kingdom above the waves. His body begins to fuse with hers. His tissues merge with her tissues. His circulatory system connects to hers. Over time, his eyes degenerate. His organs atrophy. He loses almost everything that made him an independent organism, and he becomes a part of her. A permanent reproductive appendage, fed by her blood, existing only to provide what she needs. Some female anglerfish have been found carrying more than one male fused to their bodies. Plural lives absorbed into one. The ocean is not cruel about this. It is simply efficient, in a way that makes you reconsider what individuality even means. Let that idea drift away like everything else down here drifts. Slowly, without urgency, you continue to sink. Below 2,000 meters, the water temperature stabilizes somewhere just above freezing. 1 degree Celsius, 2 degrees. This is the abyss. The abyss-opelagic zone, named for the Greek word for bottomless. And while it is not quite bottomless, it is deep enough that the difference is almost philosophical. This is the part of the ocean that covers more of Earth's surface than all of the planet's land combined. It is the largest habitat on Earth by volume. It is mostly unexplored, and it is quiet in a way that has no equivalent above. Sound actually travels well in water, faster and farther than in air, which is why whales can communicate across entire ocean basins. But down here in the abyss, sound is mostly memory. The occasional creak of shifting sediment, the soft click of something moving. Mostly silence. A silence so deep and old it feels geological, like the silence of stone. The seafloor down here is covered in something called marine snow, and I want you to picture this carefully because it is one of the most peaceful images the ocean offers. Marine snow is not really snow. It is a constant, unending drift of particles falling from above, dead plankton, fragments of organic material, mucus threads, fecal pellets, the shed casings of tiny crustaceans, billions of tiny motes, drifting down through miles of dark water so slowly, so impossibly slowly. A single particle of marine snow might take weeks to travel from the surface to the seafloor. It falls in the dark. It passes through each layer of the ocean in turn, taking its time, feeding things along the way. And when it finally reaches the bottom, it forms a soft, pale layer of sediment, a record of everything that lived and died above, compressed over millions of years into something you could hold in your hand, if you could hold anything down here. The seafloor of the abyss is covered in this sediment, often a meter or more deep. It is extraordinarily fine, finer than talcum powder, and it disturbs at the lightest touch. The few remotely operated vehicles that have visited have left trails in the sediment that scientists believe may still be visible thousands of years from now. Down here, time moves differently. A footprint in the ooze is not erased by weather or water or wind. It simply stays, quietly. And living in that sediment, living in and on and through it, are creatures science is only now beginning to name. Sea cucumbers, called holothurians, move across the seafloor in such numbers that they have been called the cows of the deep ocean. Slow-moving, soft-bodied, they vacuum the sediment and extract whatever nutrition it holds. Some species are transparent, some glow. Some, when threatened, do something that makes no scientific sense until it makes all the sense in the world. They eject their own internal organs through their body walls to distract a predator, then slowly regenerate those organs over the following weeks. The ocean teaches you, again and again, that what you thought were the limits of what a living thing could do were only the limits of your imagination. Brittle stars move across the sediment in their hundreds, their long, delicate arms weaving like fingers on a slow hand. Sea spiders, not true spiders at all, but a class of arthropod called pycnogonids, walk across the bottom on legs so long and thin they seem to be mostly made of nothing. In deeper, colder, more oxygen-rich waters, they grow to extraordinary sizes through a process called polar gigantism, reaching sizes that would seem impossible in the world above. Let yourself rest in this place for a moment. Nothing is rushing you. The pressure is enormous, but it presses evenly from every direction, and so it does not crush. It simply holds, like being held by something vast and patient and very, very old. Now there is one more layer to visit, the deepest of the deep. There are trenches in the ocean floor, places where tectonic plates meet and one slides beneath the other, pulling the seafloor downward in a long, narrow canyon of almost incomprehensible depth. The Mariana Trench in the Pacific Ocean is the deepest known point on Earth. At its lowest point, a place called the Challenger Deep, the ocean floor lies more than 10,900 meters beneath the surface, 11 kilometers, 7 miles. You could place Mount Everest at the bottom, and its peak would still be more than a mile underwater. The pressure at that depth is over 1,000 times atmospheric pressure. The temperature is just above freezing. It is dark in a way that has never been disturbed by sunlight. Not once, not ever. Not since the trench formed millions of years ago. And yet, and you know what I'm going to say, life. When James Cameron descended to the Challenger Deep in 2012, he described the bottom as a desolate lunar landscape. He was wrong about one thing. It was not lifeless. Samples taken from the trench have revealed bacteria, amphipods, small shrimp-like crustaceans, sea cucumbers, polycate worms. In subsequent expeditions, plastic bags and candy wrappers were also found, which tells a different kind of story, a harder one we will not linger on tonight, but should not forget. The amphipods of the Mariana Trench are perhaps the most extraordinary. They are small, a few centimeters long, and they swarm in the deep in huge numbers, feeding on whatever falls down to them from above. From the marine snow, from the bodies of whales that sink to the bottom and become what scientists call whale falls. Entire ecosystems that bloom on a single carcass for decades, feeding hundreds of species in succession, a gift from the surface world that the darkness accepts with quiet gratitude. The amphipods of the deep trenches have been found, in multiple studies, to contain high concentrations of persistent organic pollutants in their tissues, chemicals that were manufactured on land, used by humans, and eventually made their way into the ocean and sank to the deepest places on Earth. This is not a reason for despair tonight. It is simply a fact the ocean holds, the way it holds everything, quietly, completely, without judgment. But before we leave the abyss, there is one more place we must visit, because the deep ocean is not uniform. It is not simply a flat, cold, dark plain stretching without feature. Scattered across the seafloor, like warm hearths in a vast, cold room, are the hydrothermal vents. They were discovered in 1977, and their discovery rewrote something fundamental in biology. Something so basic we had taken it for granted since the beginning of science. Until 1977, we believed that all life on Earth ultimately depended on sunlight. That the food chains and ecosystems of the entire planet were powered, at their roots, by photosynthesis, by the sun. And then a team of researchers lowered a submersible called Alvin to the seafloor near the Galapagos and found something that should not have been there. Towering chimneys of mineral rock, some of them several stories tall, billowing, superheated water so hot it would boil instantly if not for the crushing pressure holding it liquid. 250 degrees Celsius, 300 degrees, pouring upward through cracks in the seafloor and dark plumes that looked like smoke, rich with hydrogen sulfide, methane, iron, copper, zinc, and clustered around these chimneys in the scalding mineral-rich water, thriving in conditions that should have made life impossible. Life. Enormous tube worms, 2 meters long, swaying in the vent currents, each one sealed in a white casing and tipped with a feathery red plume the color of blood. Giant white crabs, mats of bacteria glowing pale in the submersible's lights. Mussels, shrimp, an entire ecosystem, dense and thriving and warm, powered not by sunlight, but by chemistry, by the heat and minerals of the earth itself. This is called chemosynthesis, and it changed everything. If life can exist here, around superheated poison water in the absolute dark at the bottom of the ocean, then the question of where else in the universe life might exist opened up like a door swinging wide. The moons of Saturn and Jupiter, Europa, Enceladus, are believed to have liquid oceans beneath their icy surfaces. And if they have oceans, and if those oceans have hydrothermal vents, then perhaps they also have tube worms and crabs and bacteria glowing in the cold dark, going about the serious business of being alive, utterly indifferent to whether anyone above the ice knows they exist. The deep ocean did not just teach us about the ocean, it taught us about the possibility of life in the universe. It expanded the map of what is possible. And it did so quietly, at the bottom of the sea, while we weren't looking. Come back now to the softer things. Come back to the bioluminescence, because I want to leave you here in the glow. In the darkness of the deep ocean, light is not absent, it is produced. Roughly 76% of deep-sea creatures are capable of producing their own light. This is not a small fact. This is extraordinary. In a place that has never once seen the sun, 3 out of every 4 creatures carry their own lantern. They make light through chemical reactions, luciferin and luciferase, oxygen and water, producing cold blue-green light with an efficiency that human engineers have spent decades trying to replicate and never quite matched. No heat, almost no energy lost, just pure, clean, living light. The purposes of this light are varied and wondrous. Some creatures use it to hunt, luring prey in the dark. Some use it to startle predators, a sudden flash to buy a moment of confusion and escape. Some use it to camouflage themselves from below, a trick called counter-illumination, where the bioluminescent belly of a fish exactly matches the faint downwelling light above it, so that a predator looking up cannot distinguish fish from water. Some creatures use their light to communicate, species-specific patterns, flashes and pulses, a language made entirely of cold fire, spoken in the dark for millions of years before any human ever thought to wonder what was down there. And some, and this is the one that stays with me, seem to produce light for reasons we simply don't understand. Patterns that don't appear to serve any clear purpose. Light that blooms and fades in the dark for an audience of no one, or perhaps only for itself. A kind of beauty that exists whether or not it is witnessed. A kind of expression that requires no receiver. As if the ocean decided long ago that light was worth making even in the dark, even alone, even without reason, and has been making it ever since. Perhaps the ocean knows things about beauty that we haven't learned yet. Let your eyes soften behind their lids. You are very deep now, very still. The water holds you, the cold holds you, the dark holds you, and it is not frightening. It is simply the oldest embrace this planet knows how to give. Think about what is above you right now as you drift. 7 miles of water. Or rather, think about this another way. If you took the height of the Eiffel Tower and stacked it on top of itself, you would need to do it 36 times to reach the surface from the Challenger Deep. 36 Eiffel Towers balanced end to end, each one invisible to the next in the dark. And at the top, barely perceptible, a disk of faint blue light, a rumor of the sky. The ocean has been here for roughly 3.5 billion years. Life in the ocean is older than life on land by more than 1 billion years. Every living thing on this planet, every tree, every bird, every sleepy human lying in the dark right now, every one of us is descended from something that once lived in that water. We carry it still. Our blood is roughly the same salinity as ancient seawater. Our bodies are more than 60% water. We breathe in rhythm the way tides breathe in rhythm. We are not separate from the ocean. We came from it. And somewhere in the quietest, most animal part of us, we still remember. There is a researcher, a marine biologist who spent decades studying the deep ocean, who once said that every time she sent a camera to the bottom and it came back with footage, there was always something in the footage that she had never seen before. Every single time, in decades of research. The deep ocean does not run out of new things. It simply has not had enough visitors yet to show all of what it holds. We have named roughly 240,000 species of marine life. Scientists estimate that at least 2 million more remain undiscovered. 2 million species living in the dark, going about the business of being alive, unnamed and unseen, patient as only ancient things can be patient. They are not waiting for us. They do not need our attention. They were here before us and will almost certainly be here after us. But they are there, right now, while you breathe, while you let go of the day. In the deepest trenches, microbial life has been found living inside rock, not on rock, inside it. Single-celled organisms, wedged into the mineral structure of the seafloor itself, drawing energy not from sunlight and not from organic matter, but from the chemical reactions of rock and water, from the slow metabolism of geology itself. They reproduce perhaps once every 10,000 years. They may be among the oldest living lineages on Earth. They are alive right now, inside stone, at the bottom of the sea, slower than anything you have ever imagined being alive. There is something deeply calming about that, about the idea that life is so insistent, so various, so ingenious, that it finds a way into even the coldest, darkest, most compressed corners of this planet and simply continues. Not dramatically, not triumphantly, just quietly, persistently. Being alive because that is what it does. You can let that be enough tonight. You do not need to understand the ocean fully. No one does. No one ever will, perhaps. And there is such rest in that, in the fact that the world is larger than understanding, deeper than any map we could make of it, full of creatures glowing in the dark for reasons even they do not know. The mystery is not a problem to be solved. It is the thing itself. The deep ocean is not a puzzle waiting for an answer. It is simply what it is, enormous and dark and alive and ancient and right here, beneath the turning world, beneath the sleeping continents, beneath you. As you lie there now, feel the weight of your body against whatever you are lying on. Feel how still you are. You are at the surface of things, the thin, warm, sunlit surface. And far below you, something vast and unhurried is moving in the dark. A siphonophore trailing light. A lanternfish rising toward a surface it will never quite reach. A sea cucumber moving through pale sediment, taking centuries to do what others would call nothing. And somewhere in a trench so deep that the word deep feels inadequate, a microbe locked inside stone is drawing its 10,000th year slowly to a close, doing what life does, being what life is, in a silence so complete that the word silence also feels inadequate. You are here. The ocean is there. Between you is the weight of the world, and it is resting tonight, as you are resting. Your breath is very slow now, in and out, in and out. Like a tide that no one watches but the shore. The deep ocean will be there tomorrow, and the night after that, and for longer than either of us can meaningfully imagine. It does not need us to witness it, but it rewards us, quietly, generously, whenever we take a moment to remember it is there. To let it remind us that the world is larger and stranger and more beautiful than our worries. That beneath the ordinary surface of things, something extraordinary is always moving, something glowing in the dark, something patient, something alive. If tonight was the kind of night that needed unwinding, and most nights are, I hope the dark water found its way into the tight places and loosened them. I hope the thought of marine snow drifting through miles of silence gave your mind something quiet to follow downward. I hope the lanternfish and the siphonophore and the strange fused anglerfish and the microbe in its stone gave you what they give me when I think about them. a sense of scale that makes the small things small again, and a sense of wonder that makes the large things livable. Sleep now. Let yourself drift. If you find yourself here again tomorrow night or the night after, if you want to travel somewhere else that is very far and very quiet and very full of things worth knowing, you know where to find us. A gentle subscribe is the kindest way to say you would like to come back, and we would very much like to have you. But for now, nothing. Just the dark water, just the slow drift, just the 10,000 lights blooming in the deep, seen by no one, beautiful anyway. Good night.